everyone, I'm Keen947, aka Wolfkeen, and well, with Season 3 of My Little Pony done, it's time for us to do the usual. We've done it with Season 1, done it with Season 2, and now it's time for Season 3. This is my top 5 favorite and least favorite episodes of My Little Pony Season 3. Same rules as before. This is not a best or worst list. This is my favorite and least favorite episodes, meaning that this is more or less how I feel about these episodes on a personal standing. How much they excite me, how much I love watching them, or how much they piss me off, or how much I don't want to watch them ever again. Now here's the thing I need to say with Season 3. Unfortunately with Season 3 there wasn't too many, as you would say, bad episodes as there was a lot of okay and meh episodes. Same thing with my favorite list. So a lot of my episodes in my favorite and least favorite list are going to be episodes that I find to be just okay, or, you know, don't really hate too much, but they're still going to be on either standing. So with that out of mind, let's get into my least favorite category first, and let's talk about an episode that I really don't hate, but it did make it in there after a little while.
Number 6.
I really didn't want to put this episode on the list. I really did not want to put it in my least favorite list, especially after watching Voice of Reasons video. But I'm going to put The Crystal Empire by Macon McCarthy as my number 6 on my least favorite category. The thing is that I did watch Voice of Reasons video where he brought up some really good points about why The Crystal Empire is a better two-parter opener than, you know, Return of Harmony and Friendship is Magic. And I would recommend watching that video, which I'll put a link right over there. I would recommend watching that video because it's really good, but let's get into why I personally feel like it's a least favorite episode. While it has a really good setup, especially with the villain King Sombra, and I really do like the visual appeal of the Crystal Empire, I feel like that a lot of the things that are going on within the episode are kind of, I don't really hate this episode. I just think there are elements where I found to be kind of boring to watch in many areas, or I just didn't care for. Like, you know, the main 6 keeping the fair running, which, you know, that's kind of one that I'm just like, alright, fine, I can understand that, but it's something I really don't care for. Because I said this, the first episode starts off, you know, like, with information gathering, but then the second episode just kind of falls apart in some areas because all we want to really watch is Twilight's story. A lot of us really don't care for the fair or anything of the like, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I would put this in a least favorite category. But the main reason is because a lot of the episodes that I actually do like in my favorite category are a little bit better than this episode. So I'm putting this episode in my least favorite category because really I'm left with no other choice, and I'm sorry for that.
Number 6.
I know someone is going to hurt me out there, but I'm putting Apple Family Reunion as my number 6 in my favorite category. I know everybody just collectively lost it on me and be like, how could you? This episode's terrible! Let me explain. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of family and stuff like that. I take family in high regard, and this episode being a family reunion, seeing all these members of the family getting together, seeing all these dynamics with the family, it was enough to push it to, you know, for me to like this episode. Yes, I know Applejack tries too hard and yada yada yada, but then again, I'm willing to defend it for one simple reason. If you were to be given the reins of a family reunion, which is probably going to be the biggest family reunion ever, wouldn't you want to do the best you can to make it the best possible? So I could defend Applejack being a little over ambitious to the point that I'm just like, you know what, that's fine. I don't mind that because, let's face it, I think we've all been there at one point or another with these kind of situations. And not to mention, this episode visually, it has some good humor behind it, and not to mention, I love the family dynamic. So that's enough for me to put it on as number 6 in my favorite category.
Number 5.
This is another episode that I don't hate. I actually do like this episode. But like I said, in comparison to my favorite episodes, I had to put this in my least favorite category. So, number 5 is Keep Calm and Flutter On. Now, like I said, I don't hate this episode. I think this is a really fun episode to watch, especially with Discord coming back. Because, like I've said multiple times, Discord reminds me so much of Shea Gorath and the Riddler that it's uncanny. And I love, you know, like, his antics in Keep Calm and Flutter On, especially the amount of times that he abused Angel Bunny, which I was like, yes! However, my biggest problem with Keep Calm and Flutter On is that I do agree with people that this episode probably would have been better off if it was stretched further or if it was a two-parter in some areas. I can agree with people on that front. But my biggest gripe with this episode is Fluttershy's friends. Seriously. These are your friends, and yet they were trying to come up with plans behind your back. They were not trusting you whatsoever. They were being hyper-aggressive towards Discord, which making the plan harder for Fluttershy to enact, by the way. And not to mention when Fluttershy said, oh, you think of me as just some, what do you think I am, some gullible fool? They all stuttered, meaning that they really had no faith in Fluttershy. Guys, this was the same pony that saved you from a dragon. This was the same pony who was able to basically help, with the hurricane and stuff like that. How do you not trust her? That's my biggest gripe with the episode. Besides that, I really do like this episode, but that one part right there, like with the reform spell and them coming up with these back plans, because it happens throughout the entire episode, that's what ends up pushing it towards it being a least favorite episode. Still a fun episode to watch, I'm not gonna lie.
Number 5.
Now see? This is how you do it right. This is how you do it, Dave Polsky, with too many Pinkie Pies. See, this is where it began to show that Polsky can do humor, but can also do an interesting story. Because the thing is that Pinkie just wanted to hang out with all of her friends, so she decided to resort to magical means to do this. Of course, once it started getting out of hand, and to the point that Pinkie could no longer, interact with her friends, because they were not interacting with any of the Pinkies till they know who's the real one, it put Pinkie in such a state of depression that she didn't know what to do anymore. I like this dynamic of Pinkie because we all know Pinkie is like, she loves to hang out with her friends. She loves to be around ponies. So how do you think she feels that she pretty much drove every pony away from wanting to be around her? And this is all her fault. No one told her to do this. No one forced her into this situation. And it was all her fault. So she was feeling the effects of it all the way through. And I like that because it really does make it out that Pinkie does care about her friends to the point that she knew she messed up. Not to mention this episode had a lot of funny moments. So yeah, this is one of the first times Dave Polsky had a good story with good humor. And I really do like this episode for that. And I do like how Pinkie, I do not like how people try to say, oh, Pinkie was being mean in this episode. Those are the Pinkie clones, that's one. And two, she's regretting the mistake that she made. Do you really need to punish her any further? I'm just saying, I really do feel like this episode is really good in many aspects. And that's, you know what? Yeah, I would definitely say it's number 5 on my list.
Number 4.
So now we move on to an episode that I also found to be okay, to a point that I actually had it in my favorite category, but it got knocked out after watching all of Season 3. Just for Sidekicks by Corey Powell. I'm going to be honest here, guys. I don't hate Just for Sidekicks. I can see why people don't like this episode, but I honestly feel like this is an okay episode in several aspects. The only gripes I have with this episode is that I wish there were more pet dynamics, like we got more dynamics with the pets, and I wish there was just more to go about besides just Spike trying to get rid of the pets so he can make a jewel cake. The story is just kind of boring in many areas. But I still like some of the dynamics with like the humor and stuff like that, and not to mention, Spike does learn his lesson at the end of the day with the moral, where, he learned like, him trying to pawn him off and stuff like that. He does learn his lesson at the end of the day. And not to mention, the CMC and Spike are written really well in this episode. I mean, yeah, so this episode is okay for me. I mean, I don't have any problems with it, but I can see why others have problems with it. And that's kind of why it's in my least favorite category above Keep Calm and Flutter On, because this is an episode that I could easily skip and, not really care. Keep Calm and Flutter On, I could really watch that and enjoy myself. Not the same case with Just for Sidekicks, unfortunately.
Number 4.
I wanted to put this episode higher. I really did. But the other 3 episodes I really like a lot more. So here we are with number 4 with Magical Mystery Cure by M.A. Larson. I said it in my vlog. I'm not a big fan of musicals, but you know what? This is a damn good musical episode. I mean, all the songs besides a couple were really good, if you ask me. The flow of the story was really good because I feel like this was better as a musical one-parter than being a 2-parter episode, because how much can you do with Twilight's coronation as a second part? Like, what kind of story would you have behind that? Just kind of curious on that front. And not to mention, I do like the story behind it where the cutie marks were swapped because of her, casting an unknown spell that was unfinished. So, story-wise, I think it was really good. The songs were also very good, and you know what? I don't mind Alicorn Twilight. I just think overall this was a really good episode. I really don't have a lot to say, unfortunately, because there really isn't a lot to say. Good musical, good episode, good characters. What else can be said?
Number 3.
Dang it, Cindy Morrow! Dang it! You had a really good season going on with season 2, and now you messed up again. It's like, I think you know what I'm talking about. One bad apple. This is one episode that I actually do legitly hate in some areas, but it doesn't really garner as much hate as some of the later episodes in many aspects. One Bad Apple, if you ask me, is one of the worst bully stories I've ever seen in my life. Especially with the character Babseed. I know what they were trying to go for. Babs being bullied, so she decides to become a bully to avoid bullying. But the problem is that people try to make the defense, oh, Babs is, like, regretful for her actions and stuff like that. We never see this except one time in the episode, and that unfortunately bugs me, because if we did see some more events of Babs being regretful for her decisions, maybe this episode would have been a lot better off, because I feel like One Bad Apple had a lot of bad decisions in it, especially how ruthless Babseed was to the CMCs. I mean, seriously. She became a bully to avoid bullying, but she became a worse bully than Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. I mean, she took their clubhouse, for instance. She bullied them on a relentless state. I mean, not even in episodes of My Little Pony where we see the CMCs, we see them getting bullied so relentlessly by like Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. So, Babs becoming a bully just to avoid bullying, I don't believe that, because she was too good of a bully. And that's one thing that bugs me to high heaven, especially considering that I did the same thing when I was younger. And not to mention, this episode has a lot of stupid jokes. But this episode doesn't really garner as much hate as later episodes, luckily. So, yeah, it gets to be number 3.
Number 3?
There's probably going to be some hatred for me putting this on here, but I'm putting number 3 as Sleepless in Ponyville by Corey Powell. Now, the thing is with this episode, I think this is definitely one of the first steps towards Scootaloo and Rainbow Dash actually having a really good relationship with each other. And I quite like that, because Scootaloo idolizes Rainbow Dash. She wants Rainbow Dash, to actually notice her, and she wants to actually be somewhat of a little sister to her. Because we haven't really known much about Scootaloo's family. Like, I hate the fact that people say she's an orphan. That's never been proven. But it does seem like she might be an only child. It seems like she might be an only child, which is interesting. So the fact that she idolizes Rainbow Dash, especially for her talents and stuff like that, I quite like this. And the episode itself definitely portrays this. Not to mention all the characters. I feel like this is Look Before You Sleep done right. Because Rarity and Applejack's dynamics in this episode don't feel childish. They actually feel like actual friends, taking subtle jabs at each other and other stuff alike. And not to mention, I do like the idea of the nightmares, because, let's face it, sometimes we can all be racked with fear, and Scootaloo, with these nightmares, really affected her to the point that she no longer wanted to sleep, which was, of course, affecting her overall. And I do like the ending portion where, Scootaloo and Rainbow Dash actually, embrace each other in a hug, because Scootaloo finally admitted the truth. Alright, I will give the people that Luna coming out of nowhere was a bit of BS and other stuff alike, and Scootaloo falling off the waterfall, and somehow Rainbow Dash was there to catch her. No, that's crap. That's crap. But everything else, yeah, this episode works in a lot of ways.
Number 2.
Oh, man. Games, Ponies, Play by Dave Polsky. I mean, this is the funniest episode of Season 3, if you ask my honest opinion. This is definitely one of the funniest episodes of Season 3, if you ask me. But unfortunately, it's also the worst story-structured episode of Season 3. It's like this episode has so many moments where I can laugh my ass off, and then it has so many moments where I'm just like, oh, the story is so bad, or something of the like. Especially the wrong pony picked, and they left the real games inspector at the train station. They're escorting this one mare all around, the Crystal Empire, and yada, yada, yada. It's like, I hate to say it, but this episode really does not work in the story structure. And because I'm a huge fan of story, this is a huge, huge problem. I mean, the characters were good, and the humor was good, but everything else falls apart. There isn't even a moral in this episode. Like I said, it's okay to, for the moral not to be said outright in My Little Pony, but normally every episode has a moral. This is one of the first times that the episode had no moral, because, let's face it, what would be the moral in this episode? Still, It's all worth it for that face right there.
Never thought I'd also be meeting royalty to boot.
Number 2.
You see, Meriwether Williams? That's how you do an episode. Wonderbolt Academy by Meriwether Williams. This episode was also another plot device that I really did like a plot progression. Rainbow Dash becoming a Wonderbolt. She became, she's going to the Wonderbolt Academy, and I really do like what they did with this, having Rainbow Dash side by side with a foil character by the name of Lightning Dust, who has the same amount of skill as Rainbow Dash, but might be a little more skilled if you think about it. However, she's more reckless because she only thinks about herself and not about her comrades. And I quite like that in the episode because it definitely shows an idea of what could happen if Rainbow Dash was to be met with a character that was just as good as her, only did not have the same kind of moral standing as her. Because Lightning Dust was willing to do whatever it takes to become a Wonderbolt. Shoving her classmates, pushing herself to dangerous limits, or even getting her teammates injured to a certain extent. It shows that Lightning Dust is very cutthroat and would be willing to do anything it takes to become a Wonderbolt. Rainbow Dash would as well, but she knows the limit. And not to mention, I love that when she was pushed to the limit of choosing to be a Wonderbolt and her friends, she chose her friends over becoming a Wonderbolt. I felt like that was a powerful scene, how she confronted Spitfire and basically just said, I quit. That was a powerful scene. It's like, it's like, I said it in my vlog. This is choosing your morals or choosing your dream. That's a hard choice when you really think about it at the end of the day.
Number 1.
Alright, so my number 1. This episode is... Oh, what am I kidding? You already know what it is. It's Spike at Your Service by Meriwether Williams. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I don't hate this episode. Far from it. I think this episode is fine in many aspects. Because, well, the thing is that the characters, at least the main 6, are good. Especially with the dialogue. But the problem is that everything else falls apart. It's like, to make this episode worse, they basically had to break the continuity of Spike from earlier seasons. Because seriously, all of the stuff that he's doing, he's shown to be so massively incompetent. Like, oh, sweeping up and mopping the place. Spike has been shown to do that in multiple episodes. Oh, cleaning up a mess that he's made. He's been shown to be able to do that as well. Not being able to cook. He's been shown to be able to cook and bake really well in many aspects. Oh, being so... It's like there are some instances of Spike messing up that I can let go, like him running into the pole and causing a hot air balloon to fly off. But then there are other instances that I cannot suspend my disbelief, like not being able to make pies when he can make cake and cookies. Not being able to clean up a kitchen when he's been shown to clean up, like Twilight's library on a constant basis, especially considering how many times that library gets destroyed. I mean, seriously, have you seen how many times those books get knocked down? Who's the one that has to clean all that up? Spike. It's like... This episode had to break Spike's continuity and break Spike's character to basically make this episode work. And I don't even know where this episode was trying to go. I don't know if this episode was trying to be serious. I don't know if this episode was trying to be funny. I don't know. I really don't know what direction they were trying to go with this episode. And before someone comes out with the Dragon Code, I'm willing to defend that because that's a personal code of honor like I brought up in my vlog. But everything else in this episode, besides the main 6, like the main 6 being in character, everything else in this episode just falls apart to shambles. But I wouldn't say this is a terrible episode. I think this episode is okay, but for me, this is definitely my least favorite of Season 3. But does that mean I hate this episode? Nah.
Number 1.
Best Writer does what Best Writer does. My number 1 is Magic Duel. I'm pretty sure nobody saw that coming. But anyways... Magic Duel, I'm going to say this right now. Yes, I am a fan of Trixie. I love Trixie's character, especially, I'm a huge fan of characters that speak in the third person in general, but Trixie having another chance to come back and basically do another episode, I was very happy with that. And not to mention they did a really cool idea with Trixie. The idea that she's after revenge for Twilight because of Twilight and, of course, herself in many cases, she pretty much became ridiculed and otherwise, as we saw in the episode through a flashback, where now everyone knows she's a fake. Everyone completely goes against her. And she had to do so much to basically try to get enough money to get this item, which I wear as my dog tag, the Alicorn Amulet. And it's just like, I really love this episode because of Trixie getting a second chance. I love the visual appeal because of the magic duel that they have, you know, trying to outdo each other with different spells. And I definitely like the themes that they make towards Star Wars, with Twilight and Zecora basically training with each other. It really does remind me of so many, you know, it does have a lot of pop culture references. And not to mention, this episode is funny as hell. I feel like this episode has a lot of good humor behind it. And you know what? I think this is a good episode to show that background, you know, like secondary characters can get another chance. Because to those who say, you know, Gilda, Lightning Dust, and others deserve a second chance, I'm with you. I think they do deserve a second chance. Because if Trixie can get a second chance and not a lot of people like her, why can't the others, right? I feel like this episode demonstrates that in many cases, that secondary characters can get a second chance, but also, like, you know, they can come back and have a new, you know, something new behind them. And yeah, that's why I like this episode. It's a really fun episode to watch, visually appealing, funny episode, and opens up the idea of characters getting another chance in the show. And there we go. That's my top 5 favorite and least favorite episodes of My Little Pony Season 3. What do you think of my list? Go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you have your own top 5 favorite and least favorite episodes of Season 3, go ahead and leave a comment down below with your favorite and least favorite episodes of Season 3. So until next time, guys, I'm Keen47, aka Wolfkeen. Hope you enjoyed. And until next time, guys, take care.